Okay, so we have a big breaking news coming out. Please share this video. Today is March 29, 2025, and welcome to the Real GS News channel. Guys, before I start, give this video a big thumbs up. And once again, thank you so much for your support. US President Donald could remain president until 2037 because of constitutional loophole. He will be 91. 91 by 2037. Alright, so we're going to see what's going on here, guys. This is a big breaking news. This information is coming out right now. It's trending on X. And we do have some more breaking news I want to share to you. We have some updates here, guys, when it comes to these biblical wars. You have US deployed B-2 nuclear bombers to Indian Ocean military base. 1 out of 4 of entire fleet moved. All right, so at least 4 US B-2 Spirit bombers, 25% of America's nuclear-capable fleet, have been moved to Diego Garcia, a remote US military base in the Indian Ocean south of India and Sri Lanka. All right, so that's a very important update. We talked about this a couple of days ago, but we do have some updates. Guys, I just posted a video not too long ago. This link will be in the comments box. Very, very important event is going on today. The Fed's on high alert for Tesla Global Day of Action after nationwide lawlessness leads to cuff arrest. So some stuff is going down right now. There's a lot of videos on X. A lot of people are out there holding flyers, banners, and the feds are urging many citizens out there to be aware when it comes to Tesla charging station, or if you even drive a Tesla vehicle, just be aware you got these group out there that again they are basically against Elon. They are against his all that type of stuff because of Doge. Again, for those of you that don't know, Donald has chosen Elon to run Doge, and Doge is auditing a lot of agency, IRS, and Social Security. So you got this group out there is just protesting against Elon, and they're going after his business, basically. So please be safe out there, America, and I will keep you updated with all these news. We're going to start with Donald being president until 2037. Again, that's a whole new ball game there. Alright, guys, before I start, for those of you that want to send us letters, a prayer request, you can send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife, Jessica Santiago, at 3432 US Highway 19, number 2, Holiday, Florida, 34691. And for those of you that want to contribute to the channel, we do have the PayPal link and the Cash App link in the comments box and also description box. Alright, so let's see what's going on here, guys. I want to share this with many of you. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be president until 2037, but one thing I tell you, we are seeing a lot of signs that could lead to martial law. Alright, so a lot of people are talking about April 20th martial law here in the US. And the reason why is because of the national emergency that he declare on the southern region. All right, so again, we're going to talk about that later on tonight. I got some more updates. The U.S. has sent more military equipment to the southern region. All right, so it says here how Donald could be president until 2037 due to a simple loophole in the Constitution. This was posted today, 3 hours ago, by Nick Allen for DailyMail.com. So let's see what's going on here. It is noon in Washington on Saturday, January 20th, 2029. Jeez, man. Just imagine 2029, how everything would look like. The inauguration day, a bearded man steps forward in front of the U.S. Capitol and raises his right hand, placing his left hand on the Bible. I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear, J.D. Vance. Moments later, with a knowing smile, the new president of the U.S. declares, I resign. His running mate embraces him in a bear hug. The crowd of hundreds of thousands of National Mall erupts in cheers of Donald, 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 and 4 more years. Donald has become the leader for a third time. I don't see that happening. Not like that. Again, I'm sorry, but I don't see that happening. Unless this biblical war WWE3, there's a whole different ball game. Martial law stuff, just like what happened during FDR time. But I don't see that happening. So this sounds like a theory or a MAGA flight of fancy. After all, as everyone with a passing knowledge of the Constitution knows, the 22nd Amendment limits president to 2 terms. Yep. If that was the case, then Joe would have still been leader and, stuff like that. But, it doesn't work like that. But could a scenario where Donald remains in the White House beyond that really happen? The surprising answer from expert is yes. In fact, the path for Donald to serve a third term and potentially a fourth until January 2037, when he will be age 90. I truly apologize. I mentioned 91. I truly apologize. It is not only possible, it is simple, thanks to a glaring loophole in the amendment. The idea of exploding this loophole has long been percolating in academic circles, behind the scenes in Congress and the White House, and recently among Donald most fervent supporters. Carrying it out will more require an army of lawyers to perform arcane legal acrobatics with the Constitution. What do you guys think? And just imagine the other side, how they would go cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. Instead, the move would hinge merely on the interpretation of one word, election, and the 22nd Amendment and the loyalty of one man, Vance. It will also require Donald to have enough popular support to win for a third term at the box. The 22nd Amendment. The text of the full 22nd Amendment says the following: no person shall be elected to the office of the leader, the president, more than twice. All right, so that right there says it all. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected, president shall be elected to office of the president more than once. The amendment was ratified in 1951. All right, so again, that was right after FDR. So that was right after FDR. Okay, you guys already know 1940-something, you had all that WW2 stuff going on. And, the guy with the mustache, Germany stuff. Again, all that was happening. And Japan and all that. So FDR, he served, I think he did 16 years, right? And he would have done more, but he passed away and stuff. And from there, everything just changed. So they added to the amendment only 2 terms. All right. So again, that's back then it was a whole different ball game. Back then, the world was really in bad shape. And FDR turned this country around. We became the richest country in the world. Again, back then things were different. The left were different back then, not to now. This left here that we see right now is just a whole different Looney Tunes stuff. All right, so no person shall be elected to the spotlight of the office more than twice. All right, so the amendment was ratified in 1951 and was direct response to FDR having been elected 4 times on the third and fourth occasion during wartime. Again, that's the key word, wartime. All right, so you guys know what's going on with Zelensky. Again, he's still in power because of war. Martial law keeps him in power. So he was the only president, again, FDR was the only president to do so since the convention of only 2 terms was established by George Washington. Those people back then, they loved George Washington. They was like, man, come on, man, we needed to be president. George is like, nah, I think two is good enough. Two is good enough. So they really loved George back then. They truly loved it. And they wanted him to continue on. But, yeah, they said, he said no. 2 terms. The loophole. The loophole in the 22nd Amendment is set out in the 1999 Minnesota Law Review article co-authored by Professor Bruce entitled "The Twice and the Future President." It outlines how the amendment has been subjected to widespread misunderstanding and concludes that the idea any twice elected president is constitutionally prohibited from serving again is decisively incorrect. Definitely, incorrect. So according to the paper, we contend that the 22nd Amendment proscribes only the re-election of an already twice elected president. The key phrase in the amendment is, no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. It is argued that means a twice elected president will not be barred from later reassuming the office due to the resignation or death of another president. Now, Donald could therefore run for VP, with Vance as an openly recognized nominal figure at the top of the ticket. Once he is sworn in, Vance could then resign, allowing the VP, Donald, to step into the office. Nah, again, I heard this before. It just... That's not how America was built. Put it like that. Alright, so... If that was the case, Joe would have chosen Barack instead of Kamala. He would have chosen Barack and said, "I choose Barack." And to be honest, I think they would have had a better chance going against Donald and Vance if they had Barack in as a VP. I'm saying, guys, because again, nobody really cared about Harris, but it would have been a different ball game. But I just don't see it, happening like this, and it just, that's not the way that Washington or the founding fathers would like to see stuff like that, because it just, you put the stuff out there, then in the future everybody's gonna start doing it, and it's just gonna mess up the country. And, people's gonna take the opportunity, and again, Donald is a good leader, right? So if the next person step in, a really bad leader, and he says, hey, if Donald did it, then I could do it, he become leader for 20 plus years, we could see a Castro or something. Yeah, not a good thing. All right, so once he is sworn in, Vance could then resign, allowing his VP, Donald, to step into the office. The same procedure could be used in multiple elections. What do you guys think? Leave comments down below. You think it's a good idea? I did read the comments on that news article, and a lot of people's like, yes, do it. But again, guys, I stay focused. The way the Constitution is built, the way everything is placed, we must follow that. Again, these loophole stuff could lead to, consequences. All right, so it was not meant, to just go around it and say, hey, we found a way. Donald can remain in power until he's like almost 100 years old. To win a 4th term, Donald would simply have to resign the presidency before the 2032 election and become the running mate of a nominal presidential candidate, be that Vance or someone else. And I don't think Vance is going to actually do that. Vance is going to be like, man, I'm president. You think I want to give this up, Donald? Donald, man, I love you, Donald. Thank you so much for choosing me as VP. But Donald, man, I can't step down. I'm about to be the president. So, man, I don't think nobody would give that up. I don't think nobody would give it up. I mean, if you were elected by the people, and then for you to turn around and say, "Hey, Donald, this is for you," no, I just, the people's not gonna be pleased. I mean, I ain't chose him, I chose you. Opponents could challenge such a move in the courts, arguing it breaches the 22nd Amendment. But Professor, I'm skip his name, told the news it will be pretty hard for the Supreme Court to undo. That would be especially so given that the conservative makeup of the current court and is bent towards a textualist interpretation of the Constitution. Any decision will be likely to be based on the definition of the word election rather than what the authors of the 22nd Amendment intend. Also, if the plan was not clandestine, but instead revealed openly to the electorate before the vote, it would be difficult to argue it was not democracy in action. If people knew what they were voting for, vote Vance, get Donald, it would be hard for opponents to argue in court that the spirit, let alone the letter of the Constitution, was being broken. Like I said, guys, I don't see this happening. And I heard stuff like this and other loopholes, but again, the only way, and it seems like this is like the only accurate way, is if we are involved in WWE3. And let's say Hawaii gets impacted. Let's say North Korea fires something towards Hawaii. Then, ladies and gentlemen, that's a different ball game. That's we are involved in a biblical war, and Donald would declare martial law, and he will be leader until all these biblical wars over. But that's the only accurate way. That's the way I see it. I think it's one of those surprisingly straightforward scenarios. Now, what seems crazy a couple of decades ago now seems all too plausible. Indeed, Donald would not be the first president to look at the idea. How other presidents viewed the 22nd Amendment. The Minnesota paper outlined how numerous presidents have been aware of the potential to serve a third term in this way. Shortly after the 22nd Amendment was ratified, you have President Eisenhower said it did not seem wholly wise to report it. Wholly wise, the report noted. Eisenhower said the electorate ought to be able to choose for its president anybody that it wants, regardless of the number of terms he has served. He even raised the possibility of running as VP in 1960 and then reassuming office for a third time itself. But it says here, the only thing I know about the presidency the next time is this: I can't run, he said. But someone has raised the question that were I invited, could I constitutionally run for vice president? I don't think that has ever happened, guys. A president running for vice president. Like I said, if that was the case, Joe would have picked Barack instead of Harris. So it says here, he later said that the Justice Department had looked into it and concluded it will be absolutely legal for me to do so. In the event, he did not. So I got a feeling, guys, there's a possibility, and this is not going to work on the right. It's going to work on the left. I have a strong feeling. I have a strong feeling when Donald's term is almost up, there's going to be a left. Possibly a young individual. I don't know, it could be a female, but and this person could pick Barack as the VP for 2028 or 2029. That could work for them, for the left, not for Donald. I don't think so, but it seems like there's a possibility because we've seen under Joe, who was pulling the string for Joe? Who was pulling the string for Joe? It was not Joe. If you think Joe was doing all this stuff and from 2021 to 2024, it wasn't him. someone was pulling a string, and I do believe it was the 44th. And he's going to come back after Donald is gone. And I do believe he possibly going to be a VP. Someone's going to choose him for VP. So I do believe so. Give me a second here, guys. So you have Truman bemoaned that the 22nd Amendment made very second term president a lame duck. Later, Reagan called the amendment ridiculous and suggested it interfere with the democratic rights of the people to choose whoever they want. The Minnesota paper notes that the final language of the ratified 22nd Amendment differed from earlier versions, which closed of the possibility of a third term under any circumstances. In the original formulation, it was specified that anyone who was president on 365 days calendars or more in each of the two terms shall not be eligible to hold the office of president or to act as president for any part of another term. The 12th Amendment. It has been argued that the 12th Amendment would prevent Donald from standing as VP. The amendment says, in part, no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of VP of the United States. Well, it seems like you can't be the vice president either. If you were a president, it seems like you can't be the vice president. It's like those people, those who were born in another country, and let's say you want to run for president, you can't. I don't even think they could even be chosen as VP. Because if something happens to the president, the VP steps in and takes the spotlight. So a foreign person cannot be a VP. I don't think a foreign person could be a VP. If that's the case, then it won't go to the VP. It will go straight to the speaker. It says here, however, the 12th Amendment was ratified in 1804, nearly 150 years before the 22nd. Wow. Okay, so everything changed. The Minnesota paper notes, at the time the 12th Amendment was written, there was, of course, no 22nd Amendment. Therefore, the 12th Amendment could not have originally meant to preclude someone from being VP who had been elected president twice. Instead, it argues that the 12th Amendment reference to eligibility means that was already in the Constitution at the time, that no one could serve if they were not a natural-born citizen and at least 35 years old. There you go. Foreigners. You got Vladimir and Dmitry precedent. There is a modern precedent of sorts for Donald pursuing a third term, which is sometimes referred to as the Vladimir and Dmitry method. Now, these two were leader. Vladimir has been long leader for the Bear Country. So in 2008, Vladimir was constitutionally barred from seeking a third consecutive term as president. His loyal associate, Dmitry, stood and was elected president, having publicly pledged to appoint Vladimir as his prime minister. Ooh, you see that? Vladimir wielded power through Dmitry for that term and then stood again for president in 2012. Because something like that happened here in America. We shall wait, we shall see. But one thing I tell you guys, it's not a good idea, because then the left is going to be like, maybe we could do something like that. Instead of, giving 81 million votes to that old timer that didn't work, we should have done something like that, Nancy. Oh, man. All right, so let me just read this one here. All right, so once again, this is a big breaking news. Sleeping Giant deploys B-2 nuclear bombers to Indian Ocean military base, 1/4 of entire fleet moved. Now, if WW3 hit the fan, then I do believe that we could see Donald in the spotlight for many years. At least 4 US B-2 Spirit bombers, 25% of Sleepy Giant nuclear-capable fleet, have been moved to Diego Garcia, a remote Sleeping Giant military base in the Indian Ocean south of India and Sri Lanka. Satellite images confirm the deployment, signaling a major escalation in U.S. strategic positioning. Diego Garcia is a critical launch point for operations across the Mideast, Africa, and Asia, making this move impossible to ignore. The bombers are built for stealth and long-range nuclear missions. Alright, so that's where we are right now, guys. I will keep you updated when it comes to these nuclear bombers. Once again, they're out there in the Indian Ocean, not too far from Yemen and Iran. Also, make sure you check out this video. The link will be in the comments box. Once again, you have the feds on high alert for Tesla Global Day of Action after nationwide lawlessness leads to cuff. Alright, so things are going down on Saturday, March 29th, so please be safe out there, guys. Please be safe. Avoid those large gathering. You don't want to be near that. Again, please be safe, and again, please share the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you that want to send us letters or prayer requests, you send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife Jessica Santiago. My address is highlighted in yellow. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, later. Peace.